All right, so today we're cracking open one of the most influential books ever written, Genesis. But we're not going to read it the way you might be used to. Think of it like a treasure hunt, except the map isn't in the main story. It's hidden right there in the margins.
So here's a thought. What if the real key to understanding these ancient stories, the little details that change absolutely everything, aren't actually in the main text at all? What if they're tucked away in the translator's notes and those tiny academic footnotes? Yep, that's what we're doing. We are diving deep into the secrets that scholars and linguists have been pointing out for years, hiding right there in plain sight.
So, we're basically going to unlock 3 kinds of secrets today. First up, we'll look at some powerful meanings that just get lost in translation. Then we're going to take a step back in time to really get a feel for the ancient world that shaped these stories. And finally, and this is my favorite part, we're going to uncover the hidden literary genius of the original authors. It's pretty amazing.
All right, so let's jump right in. Our first secret is all about how much can get, kind of flattened out when you translate ancient Hebrew into English. You'll see that a single word can hold an entire world of meaning. Okay, let's take a classic example, the description of Eve in Genesis 2. Most English translations call her a helper, but this is where the footnotes are absolutely crucial. The original Hebrew word is ezer. Now, ezer doesn't mean assistant or subordinate, not at all. In fact, elsewhere in the Old Testament, God himself is described as Israel's ezer, their rescuer, their powerful ally. So when the text uses this word for Eve, it's suggesting she's a strong, indispensable partner, someone who provides a strength that Adam lacks. That completely reframes the entire dynamic, right?
Okay, this next one is wild, and it really shows you how much context matters. So, there's this Hebrew word, tishuka. It pops up in 2 really important places. In Genesis 3, it gets translated as the woman's desire for her husband. Sounds kind of romantic, doesn't it? But hold on. The notes tell us to look at Genesis 4, where the exact same word is used to describe sin's desire to control Cain. And in that context, it's clearly about an urge to dominate, to take over. So the scholars in the margins are saying, hey, maybe this word isn't about romance at all. Maybe it's about a struggle for control. That changes everything for both of those passages.
Here's another great one. During the flood story, the text says God remembered Noah. Now, to us, that sounds a little strange, right? Like, did God almost forget about him down there? But the notes explain that in Hebrew, the word for remember, zakar, isn't passive. It's an action word. It means to start acting on a promise or a covenant. So when the text says God remembered Noah, it means that's the moment the rescue plan officially kicked into gear. It's all about action, not just memory.
All right, so we've seen how single words can be packed with meaning. Now let's zoom out a bit, because our next set of secrets aren't just about the words. They're about the entire ancient world that these stories come from. And believe me, it's a world very, very different from ours.
And just to give you a sense of the scale here, Genesis covers this massive sweep of time. We're talking from creation and Eden, all the way to the Great Flood, Abraham's covenant, and then the whole family saga with Joseph in Egypt. And through all of that, the cultural rules of the day were absolutely central to the story.
Okay, think about that really strange story with Noah after the flood, where he gets drunk and his son Ham sees him naked. To us, it sounds awkward, but why was it such a massive deal? Well, the footnotes explain it perfectly. In that ancient patriarchal culture, seeing your father's nakedness wasn't just embarrassing. It was seen as a profound violation of his honor, a direct challenge to his authority. It wasn't just a misstep. It was a serious offense with real, lasting consequences. And you see this kind of thing everywhere once you start looking. For instance, when Esau sells his birthright for some stew, the notes tell us that this was actually a legally binding act in some ancient cultures. Or what about when Rebekah waters 10 camels for Abraham's servant? That wasn't just her being nice. It was a sign of over-the-top hospitality and incredible character. And the whole idea of a childless couple naming a servant as their heir? Totally normal social custom back then. You have to understand these cultural rules to really get why the characters are doing what they're doing.
Okay, and all these cultural details, they lead us right into our third and final category of secrets. And this is where it gets really cool. We're talking about the incredible literary craft woven into the original Hebrew, so much of which is completely invisible once it's translated.
So, the authors of Genesis were absolute masters of wordplay, a technique called paranomasia. And what's so fascinating is that in the original Hebrew, names are almost never just names. They're basically little prophecies. So, Eve's name, Chava, sounds just like the Hebrew word for living. Seth sounds like the word for granted, and it keeps going. Later, when Jacob is blessing his sons, he uses puns on their names to predict the future of their tribes. This isn't random, it is 100% intentional literary genius.
There's a great little line from a scholar in the notes that sums it all up perfectly. In the nomen is the omen. In the name you find the destiny. And this idea is everywhere in Genesis, showing us that the authors wanted you to see a character's fate baked right into their identity from the very beginning.
But it's not just wordplay. The overall structure is also incredibly complex. You take the judgment scene in the Garden of Eden. The footnotes point out this amazing literary pattern called the chiastic structure. Basically, it works like a mirror. The sequence goes, God questions the man, then the woman, then you have the central point, the curse on the serpent, and then it reflects back out perfectly. God sentences the woman, then the man. It's this beautiful, balanced, poetic structure. It's like a piece of music.
And they even used super advanced literary devices. For example, the notes point out something called a hendiadys. It sounds complicated, but it's pretty simple. It's where you use two words linked by and to express a single idea. So when the text says your pain and your conception, it's not talking about two separate things. It's a way of saying the painful process of childbirth. It just goes to show you this isn't a simple story. We are reading something with some seriously deep literary layers.
Okay, so we've dug up all these secrets from the margins. What does it all mean? Why does any of this stuff, tucked away in the footnotes, even matter?
Well, I think it's pretty clear. We've seen how a single translated word can completely shift our perspective. We've seen how understanding that ancient world makes these strange stories finally click into place. And we've uncovered the fact that these aren't just stories, they're truly masterful works of literature.
When you read in the margins, the text just completely transforms. It stops being this flat, perhaps overly familiar story, and it becomes what it actually is. This incredibly rich, complex, and intentional work of art, just layered with meaning that really rewards anyone who's willing to take a closer look.
And it kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it? If there's this much hiding just beneath the surface of a text we all thought we knew so well, what other secrets are just waiting to be found in the margins of all the other stories that shape our world?